All right, welcome to the channel. All 0 of you. This was very impromptu, and it's only 10 a.m. on a working day. So we'll see how this goes. If no one shows up, I'll reschedule and give some warning to subscribers on when I'm going to do this. But hopefully people start popping in. We can just have a chat about this shit show we call a 2020 season, or just FSU football in general. I mean, we're basically at rock fucking bottom now. I mean, you thought 17 losing record, 2018 losing record, last year losing record. You thought that was rock bottom. I mean, I was hopeful that was rock bottom. Oh, no. Welcome to 2020, the year of suck. All right, 2-6. Third consecutive game is going to be canceled, postponed. I doubt all of these are made up, if any. And the season is in peril of not being completed, which, fine by me. I hate it for the players, right? I know they want to play, regardless of how terrible the record is. It sucks for loss of revenue for the program, for the Tallahassee economy. All those things, no good, no bueno. But as a fan, I'm not too disappointed if they don't play another game this season. But getting more into the rock bottom, today, 4-star quarterback Luke Altmyer has predictably decommitted. Just saw a tweet, forgot who. Let me see who said it, if I can give them credit. I don't feel like scrolling back so far. I didn't say it, but someone made note that this is the third consecutive December a 4-star quarterback or blue chip quarterback has decommitted from Florida State. So now this really feels like rock bottom now. By this weekend, we'll not have played a game in 3 weeks. But hey, that means we haven't lost in 3 weeks. 2-6, like I said, and now you're down to 0 quarterback commits. And the class, I'm guessing with this blue chip loss, is going to drop to, I don't know, somewhere in the 20s or lower. Let's see where they are now. Again, I'm just going to keep rambling, and maybe some folks will show up. Again, it's been a while since I've made a video, and this was impromptu going live. I just wanted to give it a shot. But hopefully folks will show up. Let me see where they rank now. It's pretty far down there. It was pretty far down there before this decommit. Keep going. I'm still scrolling. Wow. I'm still scrolling. 34. 34th. Let me see if that includes Altmyer. Let me see. Yeah, they might have already updated. 24/7 can be pretty quick. Okay, so he's not on the list of commits. So that's updated. So with Altmyer decommitting, the class has dropped all the way down to 34th in the country. Like, I get it. Third consecutive losing season, third coach in the last 4 seasons, right? But if you're gonna tear this fucker down, which basically is what has happened. You've had some players kindly asked to take a fucking hike. You've had kids opt out because of COVID. I mean, 44 players were available this past week. That's why it was canceled, because of COVID. But if you're going to strip down, get rid of some of these team cancers, like, you can't replace them with the 34th class in the country. Like, I don't expect this class to be great because the team's been so bad, right? But you got to at least, get some class that's in the neighborhood of top 20. I don't care how bad FSU is. If you can walk and chew gum at the same time, you should be able to get a decent class at FSU, to at least get the floor back. Okay, we got someone here. Paul Fetzko. Love your show. Thanks, man. It's been a while since I made one of these. Been a diehard fan since birth. His grandfather was on the first team in 1947 and in the FSU Hall of Fame. That's fucking awesome. Well, thanks for chiming in, man. Do you have any questions or comments about what the hell's going on. Like, I assume it can't get any worse, but as I said a few minutes ago, I thought it couldn't get any worse after 17, 18, and 19. It's pretty bad, and this has been discussed as well. ESPN had an article about it. I have a friend that does a podcast that has posited this question, which is the overarching problem is the administration, right? I'm not saying Norvell shouldn't be held accountable, or Willie especially, or of course Jimbo. It's all been a shitstorm. They've all played a part. But the admin is a joke. It's a fucking joke. First, let me see here. Yeah, I'm not a Cuse fan. Dude, I'll try and hang in there. And no, I'm not sad that Willie's gone. Okay, this is Paul talking about we won't get back till at the earliest 2022 or 2023. I'd feel good about that. 2 or 3 years. Yeah, and he says at least it's not Willie. I really don't care that Willie's gone. Like two things can be mutually exclusive, right? Like, should a coach be fired after 21 games? No, probably not. Of course, college football nowadays, the leash, it's not like it was back in the day. You got to get 4 years, at least a full class under your belt, and then we'll judge you. Too much money at stake, too many boosters meddling. So 21 games isn't enough, but at the same time, I was at that Miami game, Willie's last game, and not just that game. There was, of course, the previous 20 games leading up to that. I didn't think Willie was going to turn it around. The program was not going to get turned around under his watch. Highly unlikely. It did not look like it. But where the admin fucked up, and this circles back to the overriding problem, is if you're going to shit can Willie after 21 games, and this isn't a new notion that I'm about to talk about. This has been talked about by other people. If you're going to shit can him after 21 games, you better know that you can get your number one option as coach to replace him. That obviously didn't happen. I think if we're being optimistic or positive, Norvell was at best the third choice. Now, he checks boxes, right? But you can't tell me you wouldn't prefer to Matt Campbell, right? I don't think Bob Stoops was ever really realistic. But they had other options they would have preferred. I mean, hell, we had the charade shortly before Norvell was announced as the hire, where they set up a presser, and then they had to deconstruct the set. My guess is that was Matt Campbell. That's not confirmed. But if you recall, they set that up at the stadium for the presser, and then they deconstructed it, and then it was like the next day, Campbell got an extension. So I'm not sad to see Willie go. Yes, Norvell gets a pass for year one. I gave Willie a pass in year one. I didn't turn on Willie, so to speak, until after the Wake Forest debacle. I was done after that. I didn't need to see anymore. He could have coached another season or two. He wasn't turning around the program. And maybe Norvell won't either. Time will tell. Let me get to some of these comments. Syracuse and Buffalo Sports says, give Norvell a pass. John Bay, this is rock bottom, but FSU keeps proving that there's always worse. And you look back at that, Syracuse talking about first-year coaches, the 2017 class of coaches, really it's like Mullen and a bunch of trash. Frost isn't doing well in Nebraska. Obviously, Willie left. My old friend, childhood friend Jimmy says, come to the Gators. Oh, no, man. Fuck that shit. No. I'll never come to the dark side, my friend. Again, you could have given Taggart a little more time. Maybe. I just don't think he would have turned it around. Like, his 21st game looked nearly as bad as his first game. Like, it looked nearly as bad as his first game. I just didn't see it turning around under his watch. It was it was disorganized. It was, you saw some of the shit come out after he left, as usual, kind of like when presidents leave. Reporters really started to come out with what was going behind the scenes, disorganization, yada, yada, yada. Like, I'm not sitting here going to anoint Norvell. I was excited for the hire. I knew coming in, yeah, it's going to take a few years. Like you have the 17, 18, and 19 seasons, 3 consecutive losing seasons, the third head coach in 4 years. Like I didn't I thought we'd be 6-5 with the 11-game schedule this year. Like that, my expectations were high. So Norvell deserves criticism. The Georgia Tech loss, getting blown out by Pitt and Louisville. I don't care about the situation. You should have won at Georgia Tech at home. You should be competitive with the likes of Pitt and Louisville, right? Regardless of the shit storm he inherited. Because make no mistake, in my opinion, Norvell inherited a worse situation than Willie. Willie didn't inherit a good situation. I think, looking back now, the media and fans realize, we underestimated the shit show that Willie inherited, whether it was the bad offensive line room, lack of QBs, on down the line. But Willie somehow managed a way to fuck up the situation worse, right? And it was like he was dealt a pair of pocket twos, and he decided to check raise pre-flop, do continuation bets all the way to the river with pocket twos, then lose. Now let's see what Norvell does with this shitty hand. So far, not good. Make no bones about it. We can talk about the same shitty things that Willie had that Norvell has. He first of all doesn't have Cam Akers, lack of a pass rush. Offensive line has improved this year, but still not the talent that's needed. There's a myriad of reasons why this team sucks. It's not just one thing, and that's what's really frustrating. It's not like, if we could just get a QB, which helps obviously, or if we could just get a pass rusher, or if we could just get more than one DB that can cover. And speaking of which, the only one that could cover just opted out, Asante Samuel. But no, it's literally like a laundry list of things needed for this team to get turned around. All right, let me see. Sarah QB spiked the ball on 4th down. I wanted Willie to stay because he got no chance. Oh, and that's the other thing. Paul says here, I don't know if you know this, but we're broke. Exactly, yes. FSU is broke. They're hemorrhaging money. And that'll lead me to this discussion of these canceled games, more specifically the games that were canceled the day of. If folks really think FSU is trying to duck opponents, the only thing I have to say to those folks is you're fucking stupid. You're fucking dumb. Because it's estimated that FSU lost between $2 and $3 million by canceling those games. This is a team that is desperate for money, right? They are absolutely desperate. They're not going to cancel the game and lose out on a chance to bring in that type of money. So, yes, the FSU is in many ways broke, and it's sad and pathetic. And I know a lot of FBS schools operate in the red, but FSU is a different animal. FSU is different than, say, like a Florida or a Bama. Their donor pool isn't nearly as large, right? Because it's a younger program. FSU football didn't start till what? The 40s? Someone correct me on that. The 50s, the 60s? I don't remember, but a good 40, 50 years than some of these other programs. Florida football has been around at least 40 more seasons than FSU football. And of course, the school has a bigger donor base, right? They also have the advantage of geography. Florida is. They're centrally located, and they're that much closer to some more of the populous areas in Florida and recruits, which isn't to say, I'm not saying Tallahassee's in a horrible recruiting spot, but if we're comparing the programs when it comes to money and location, like Florida has an inherent advantage. And I'm rambling now, but for the longest time, FSU was able to win on the cheap, so to speak, which isn't to say they haven't had, high salaries for their coaches, or I'm sure that they've paid players. But when it comes to boosters and donor money, they were able to get away with not having some of the advantages of like some of the blue bloods or SEC programs. Mainly, number one, Bobby Bowden, he was there for 30 plus years. And that helped. And then Jimbo made a smooth transition and won a title. But all the while, he was begging for more and more and more and more stuff, which he got some of it But when you compare it to some of the bigger programs like Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, some of those that have better facilities, there's no comparison. Not to say like FSU's facilities are a joke. They've been vastly improved, especially since Jimbo took over. But he knew in order to keep up, we need this, that, and the other. We need more analysts on staff. We need bigger payroll for our staff. We need a football-only facility, and it's the arms race. It's the arms race. It is what it is. All right, let's see what I missed here. Okay, 4th and goal, down 7. They spiked it. Yeah, but you're Syracuse, though. I mean, like, the last time I recall, other than, what was it, 2 years ago, they had a good year? But beyond that, I don't follow Syracuse closely, but Donovan McNabb, Syracuse teams were pretty decent. Like Syracuse is a basketball school. Of course, I could probably say that about FSU now because they legit had a Final Four contender last year in hoops and probably will this year under Hamilton, which is crazy to think. Like, we're a basketball school now. I don't even follow college basketball that closely at all. I don't really care. What did FSU's record end up being? You mean this year? I mean, they're 2-6 right now. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad spiking on 4th and goal. I mean, it has happened before, many times before, but didn't Tom Brady do that earlier this year? 20-year NFL veteran, didn't he spike the ball in 4th or something like that? Oh, man. Absolute shit show. And I live in Jacksonville, which is mostly Gator country. And I still go out in my FSU gear, 0 fucks given. We're Duke now. Duke might have beat us this Saturday if the game wasn't canceled. That would have been our first football loss to Duke. So we might have avoided that. I don't know. The title of this was, will FSU finish the season? You'd think they're going to try just simply because of money. They would at least try to get some more home games in specifically. But as I said earlier, I don't care, and that's sad. Every year I love college football Saturdays. For the last few years, it's been tough. It's been tough. Excuse me. Syracuse and Buffalo Sports says, a lot of COVID in Florida. Yes, there is. We're a hot spot. Of course, what state isn't a hot spot at this point? Maybe better to call it. If we're being honest, if we're putting health first, there never should have been a college football season. There never should have been an NFL season. Now, I get the argument that it's theoretically better for the players because being on the team gives them more access to getting tested and the phenomenal medical staff football teams have, and the incentive to avoid COVID so you can keep playing. I get all that, but if we're being real, no, it's not the prudent thing to do to have football games all across the country where I know it's smaller crowds, but it's still tens of thousands, 10, 20,000s at these games, people still gathering for tailgates in around some stadiums. The prudent thing to do during a fucking pandemic wouldn't have been to have a season at all. But money talks. I get it. And, I also get the argument that, it's harder to spread outdoors. We could go down the COVID science or pseudoscience all day long. But if we're actually putting health first, the season never should have fucking happened. Never should have. Yes, exactly. He says, I can understand NFL having a season. But with college, it's tougher. Yeah, because it's not just, the team has to quarantine. It has the potential, if there's an outbreak, the school might have to shut down for a minute. Or at the very least, get back to online classes and disrupt the educational process. It's a shit show. and it's in the answer to this is pretty nuanced on how it should be handled. But bottom line, my whole thing with COVID, and I don't want to veer off into just complete COVID talk, but my whole thing with COVID this entire time, my stance has always been err on the side of caution. That's it. I'm not asking for a fucking lockdown, anything like that. But if it's possible to socially distance, if you can wear a fucking mask, like do the basic things so we can get through this horse shit. Jennings, I haven't heard any word on Jennings as far as what some of the sites say. Mind you, let me say this up front. I have no inside sources. I try to be an informed fan, and then then discuss football with other fans like you guys. But as you probably know, Paul, typically when a recruit decommits, that's usually all she wrote. They typically don't boomerang back. So I would say he's not coming back. Same with Altmaier. He's not highly unlikely. Luke Altmaier decommits today just to commit again later. I just don't see it happening. Yeah, Syracuse makes a good point. Without a college season, what does the NFL do about talent evaluating? Yeah, that makes it tough. Yeah, that makes it tougher for sure. And some of these kids that have opted out, like Tamarian Terry, like Asante Samuel, I think yesterday. I don't blame any of these kids doing that. Go get your money, stay healthy. This season's fucking done. But it's amazing, like, it's not really a short time because it's like a year. But what was it, February? Like right around signing day, we got the news that Wilson and Terry were coming back. It made zero sense at the time. You knew under Norvell, you probably weren't going to have a great year. Like at best, if this is before COVID, 12-game season at best, I was maybe 8-4. Back then, you were thinking. At least I was thinking. So they come back and you're like, fuck yeah, that's like 2 recruiting wins. Fast forward to now. Terry's opted out because of COVID. We're 2-6. Wilson is done for the year because he's been injured. It's just wow how things can change so quickly. Jeez. It's frustrating, but I'm in my 30s and I'm a little more cynical than I was, and I'm still passionate about football, but like the best thing, all you can do right now is laugh at it. That's all you can do. I will say, at least we're not going to lose to Florida this year, and if Clemson doesn't get made up, we won't lose to them, which I know pisses off some Florida fans. They'd love to stomp our asses this year because they would, obviously. But I told them, don't worry. It's not like we're going to be any good next year. You'll have that opportunity next year, maybe. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good point, Paul. If Harbaugh actually gets the boot, yes, that could change. Maybe Jennings comes on back. That's a good point. Yeah, I went to 2 games last year. I went to Syracuse and Miami. So I usually go to one or two a year. Right. I think it's crazy that we don't. Yeah, I said we. It's crazy that FSU doesn't have a men's soccer team. Every time I'm reminded of that, I'm like, oh yeah, they don't. That's so fucking odd. Because like to me, soccer is like synonymous with the state of Florida. I grew up playing it. Like what? The women's are awesome, as you probably know. Yeah, Harbaugh. How long has he been there now? 7 years? 8 years? Like, I think he is what he is at this point. He's not winning a national title. It's just not happening. Hell, has he even beat Ohio State once? Like he is what he is at this point. A good but not elite coach. Vastly overpaid. Of course, many coaches are vastly overpaid. Wow, I didn't know Michigan only has one? Seriously? Wow. I figured Michigan would have one. And that's the other thing. While this sucks, we need to remind ourselves. Like I said, I'm 38. I became an FSU fan around 91, 92. It's like Charlie Ward's maybe second or third year. I was about 9 years old or something, right? And since that time to the time I graduated high school, we're in the top 5 every year. And of course, they were in the top 5 like 7 years prior to I became a fan. So it's like every year, are we going to win a title? Are we going to win a title? And then you just look at the relatively short history of the program. Hell, just during my lifetime, before Willie came along, what was it, 39, 40 consecutive bowl games, right? And like I mentioned earlier with Florida having a 40 season head start, they have a Florida, they're great. Right now they're good. Mullen was the right hire. That's fantastic. But if we're talking like history during my fandom, I don't care what I haven't seen. But during my fandom, like, been spoiled. And again, despite that 40-year head start, FSU has the same number of national titles, the same number of Heisman winners. I think they have more first-round picks, more consensus All-Americans. And I think own the head-to-head matchup, at least, since I've been alive. Of course, historically, no. They coming out the gates from an all-girls school to a co-ed school with a football program. Yeah, Florida wiped the floor with them the first 15 years. But, post Bobby, it's been a different story. Anyways, I'm rambling. What's up, Mike? Yep, back on here, man. It's been a while. Harbaugh with the Lions, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Now, do you guys think Mullen's going to leave? I mean, he's past couple seasons, he's been a name mentioned as far as, NFL head coaching candidate. Obviously, I hope he gets the fuck out of Dodge. I remember when he and Willie were hired. I was excited about Willie and like his ability to recruit. I thought he had a higher ceiling because of his recruiting ability. Of course, he undercut his own recruiting ability by not winning fucking games. And with Mullen, I thought Mullen would be a good coach, but I thought he wasn't a national title ceiling type coach. And so far, that's proven to be correct. And his recruiting is solid. Right now, I think they're top 7, and I think they've been around top 10 the last couple of years. So good, but you figure at Florida, after starting out winning 10-plus games each of his first 2 years, I mean, they'd be knocking on the door top 5 class, no problem. They'd be getting multiple 5-stars per class. Now, if he keeps winning, maybe that'll start happening. But as long as Alabama exists and Clemson exists, Ohio State exists, and Georgia finds a quarterback, like, really, then I don't see Mullen ever winning the conference, let alone a title. So go ahead and go to the NFL, Mullen. We'd love it. Go. We'd still lose to Florida next year, no matter who the coach was, simply because they have a better roster right now. But, yeah, go ahead and that would be hilarious. They struck out. They finally found their coach in Mullen after Swamp Donkey and Muschamp, and that'd be fucking hilarious. After 3 good seasons, Mullen was like, yeah, I'm going to go to the NFL. I don't know if he will, but he just strikes me as that guy that'll go to the NFL. Maybe it's the shitty haircut or the khaki pants, but anyways. Oh, shit, Matt Patricia. I was a Lions fan as a kid. Early 2000s, I finally decided to root for my hometown Jags. What a good decision that was. I should have just stayed with the Lions. No difference in how shitty each team is. Yeah, that's the thing. Kirby Smart was under Saban, obviously, and he didn't see what Saban did. And by that, I mean, like, Saban adapted, evolved. Remember Saban's early years in Bama, the McElroy teams. He mostly had game managers or like maybe above average quarterbacks, and the offense was different. And then, he lost to Johnny Football. Ole Miss beat him once or twice, and he started evolving. He's like, you know what? I'm going to get these offensive gurus in here. We're going to, spread it out a little bit more. Obviously, he's still going to run the ball a lot, but he changed his approach because he knew he had to change, or else he was going to get outscored by, maybe a Clemson or, and I don't know why Kirby hasn't seen the writing on the wall. Like, I think it's time for a change, dude. It's enough of like, you can't keep doing this ground and pound and expect to win a title. You'll win most of your games because you have more talent than everyone else because they've been recruiting at an elite level under Kirby. But if you run into a team that has nearly as much talent and better quarterback play, you might lose. And that's what happened with the Florida game. Florida had a quarterback. Georgia's roster is just as talented, or it's more talented than Florida's. But Georgia got smoked because they don't have a viable quarterback. How Kirby ever ran Justin Fields out of Athens is beyond me. Like, how do you he was, I think, still to this day, 3 years after he signed, is the highest rated recruit Georgia has ever signed. And somehow you thought it was a good idea to yo-yo him in and out of the lineup in like special packages and whatever, right? How did you not build the offense around this, once in every 10 years type of quarterback? It's just beyond me. Everything, right? And I know Fromm was solid, right? But he's still like that early Saban type quarterback, an above average, good but not great game manager type guy. That's what Fromm was. Nothing great. He'll try not to lose it for you. He'll occasionally flash his potential because I think he was a 5-star as well. But, I mean, it's anyone with a pair of eyes knew it's Fields over Fromm all day. But he fuck-dicked around and Fields left and, it's been incredible at Ohio State and is going to go pro this year. Coker was another one from Florida State. Now, you can't assume this, but would we really be shocked? Had Fields stayed at Georgia, they'd already have a national title. Maybe at the 18 or 19 season, possibly. I guess that's nuts to me too. Like, Georgia hasn't won a national title since 1980. I'm old as fuck. I wasn't even born. 1980, Georgia. You think of all the great players that have come through there and go to the NFL, the good teams they've had over the years. 40 years? 40 fucking years? That's what I say as FSU fans, as much as this sucks right now, these last 3-4 seasons sucked ass. If you're old enough, you've at least seen, like me, 3 national titles. Georgia has none since 1980. That's fucking nuts to me. Mullen is lame as fuck, but the man can coach. He can coach. Exactly. When Syracuse in Buffalo Sports says the problem with most defensive hires like Kirby is they play offense to protect their defense. They do. Yes, a lot of defenses are hamstringed with today's rules. So as much as you can have a DeAndre Swift and a Nick Chubb and a Todd Gurley and name whatever incredible running back they have, like, if you don't have a quarterback, you're not winning a title. Now, they were this close in that Alabama game. But what was the difference? When Saban was looking down and out, he goes, you know what? I got nothing to lose here. Fuck it. And he went with a then freshman Tua. And that was the difference in the game, the quarterback play. Tua made the plays to win the game. Fromm and company did not. And Fromm wasn't the only reason they lost, obviously. But, yeah, Kirby needs to adapt. He really does. Okay, Paul, you were 2 years old when they won. Yeah, we're almost the same age, Mike. Like I said, ever since I was a kid, we were awesome. And then, we had those down years the last few. And even Bobby's down years were what? 8-4, 7-5, 9-3. And then Jimbo took over, and we had a nice little run there of 10-win seasons and New Year's Day bowls, and of course the title, and just generational players came through under Jimbo. But like, by and large, the majority of my 28, 29 years as a fan have been pretty fucking awesome. It doesn't make It doesn't make me feel much better. But if we're having some perspective, like we were immune to this. If you're about my age, 40 years old, 38, 40, a little older, we were immune to being this shitty. To my knowledge, every big name program, blue blood program has gone through this during our fandom, during our lifetime. Michigan's been dog shit before. Obviously, Tennessee's been dog shit for a long time. Texas has been in the shitter over the last 40 years. USC has been in the shitter. The Gators have obviously had their down seasons over the last 40 years. I could go on and on and on. And prior to Jimbo slapdick in his last year and Willie and now Norvell, we were immune to rock bottom. We just kept having winning season after winning season after winning season, no matter what. Well, now we're here. So beyond the coach needing to do what he needs to do, the admin can't keep pointing to the logo. It's time to step the fuck up. I don't know what needs to be done, but find a way to organize the boosters better and get some more fucking money, because that's what it comes down to. I mean, if you want to compete for conference and national titles, it's almost like baseball teams and football teams. Yeah, the occasional team that doesn't spend a lot can pop up, make the playoffs, maybe make a run. But consistently, who do we see in the national title hunt? The same 8, 10 to 12 teams every fucking year. And what are those teams? They're the teams that have resources. They're the teams that have a geographic advantage to recruiting, right? Those are the teams we see every year. And we have to really start ponying up the dough. I know supposedly FSU is going to move forward with this football-only facility, and that will help. But gone are the days where we can spend less than Georgia, Florida, Bama, Clemson, and still play at their level. Those days are gone. Yep. Syracuse mentions how the rules are. Yeah, I mean, there's some personal foul calls. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Paul says, I remember the Rick's years thinking it was the end of the world. Exactly. That's what I was alluding to. Like those toward, Bobby's twilight. I thought though that was rock bottom. Like, oh, God, Rick's is a joke. We can't beat Miami. Hell, we even beat Florida one year with Rick's. I was actually at that game. The long touchdown to I know it was over Gus Scott. I forgot who called it. PK Sam maybe caught the ball. Even with Rick's, we beat Florida at Florida. I thought those were the down years too, because especially it was coming right off that run. I mean, we lost the Oklahoma national championship game to Oklahoma in 2000, or the 2000 season, and that pretty much ended the run of 15. Was it 15 straight top 5 finishes or whatever? Yeah, PK Sam. Okay, I was right. I still remember, not to go off on a tangent here, but the girl I was dating at the time went to Florida, and I don't know if I was in the Florida. No, I don't think I was in the Florida student section, but I was surrounded by Gators. And it was the 4th down on that same drive. It was the loudest, up until about a couple years ago when I went to FSU Oklahoma game. That was the loudest I ever heard stadium. That 4th down and long, it was so fucking loud in the swamp. And then boom, he completed the pass to pick up the first down. And then just the air went out of the stadium. Then a couple plays later, he threw the bomb. Yep, Weatherford. Jesus. It's bad. I'd kill for those days now. What's funny, of course, if you guys recall, because of the fucked up circumstances of COVID, there's no win requirements for this bowl season. So if FSU wants to, it can go to a bowl game. It can accept a bowl bid. Oh man. And if they can, then they should, just for the reps for these younger players. Yeah, Adrian McPherson. Didn't he get in trouble for writing bad checks? Xavier Lee. Jesus. I don't know. Like, this season's just been a gut punch. Like, it's not just been the 2 and 6. It's been and the canceled games, but it's also the injuries. to some of the key players. And then finally, when you finally given up and you're like, yeah, it's done, we suck, whatever, I started to turn my attention to the development of younger players, namely Purdy. I was like, oh, sweet. Well, at least we'll get to watch Purdy, while Travis is out. Watch Purdy, see what man we have for the future. He plays like one game, and then now he's out for the year. It's like now I literally have really no reason to fucking watch. I'll do something else with my stat. I really have no reason to watch. Wilson's not playing. Purdy's not playing. Asante's not playing. Like, what am I watching for? That's what's frustrating about it. Like, just give me a reason to fucking watch. And yeah, we're so far away because I just said with the loss of Altmaier, the recruiting ranking has dropped all the way to 34th on 24/7's rankings. And I don't know what you can do from now till signing day to make that up. Like, what's the ceiling now in the class? They now sit at 34. What's the ceiling? Maybe they squeak into the top 25 with a couple more commits. Yeah. When he said he was coming back, of course I was happy as a fan, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, why the fuck aren't you leaving? You got to think that the grade he was given wasn't to his liking. There was no, other than, rah, play for my team. There was no logical reason to come back. He must have got like a third round grade or something and thought he could improve upon it. Some people thought he could go in the second or into the first, but maybe they're wrong. Maybe his grade was like a third round grade and he was like, you know what, I'll come back. And now, who knows where he'll go now? We'll see. He'll have to really kill it in the the draft camps or whatever. Yeah, right. Like I said, I'm not even mad at the losses. Yeah. But to be not competitive, like, why am I watching them get blown out? Like, I mean, that was the thing with Willie. Like, gave him a pass year one, then year two, some games were a little closer, but then there were still the blowouts, and I was like, what the fuck am I watching? Give me a reason to watch in the fourth quarter, for Christ's sake. Yeah, Norvell's got his work cut out for him. And I think it was David Hale tweeted yesterday that has there been another first-year coach that has had a rougher first 12 months on the job? And I don't know. I mean, first he had the dust up with Wilson and what he told players. And you put that on Norvell. He did, since apologize and wanted to give his players a platform, but he had that. Then, of course, COVID, right? Spring practice was, 3? They got maybe 3 practices in, and then boom, no more. So you didn't get to develop. You didn't get to really see in person what you had. Yeah, there's film and what have you, but you didn't get to see what you had. So you lost some evaluation time. And then, of course, when recruiting comes, like, you're a new coach at a new school, like, and you can't see the players in person, like, that's going to make recruiting a little more difficult, as opposed to, say, a second or third year head coach that's been at that school and has had a previous relationship with a blue chipper. Like, how many blue chips did he really recruit at Memphis? I know he recruited some, but how many blue chips did he recruit at Memphis that he could then say when he got to Florida State, hey, come on here? He pretty much had to wipe the slate clean and try and convince these blue chips to come here without the benefit of actually getting them to visit campus. It's like it was the perfect storm for fuckery. Which, again, isn't to say Norvell isn't deserving of criticism, but, like, that's why my expectation was so low coming into this year. I thought once the 11-game schedule was announced, I thought, okay, 6-5, anything better than that, gravy. Now he's not going to even approach 6-5, but right, Paul? Yeah, I was God, that was such a great moment, and to think where we are now. I think when they won that game, they moved to 2-3. They've had 3 consecutive losses, and it's been, what, 6 weeks now since that game? Yeah, I mean, when they pulled off that upset, I was like, oh, my God, oh, here we go. Here's some tangible evidence of getting better. And then yeah, and another thing about Norvell is, like, we can bitch and complain about him till the cows come home, but as Paul alluded to earlier, FSU is broke. I didn't think they were going to be able to scrape up the money to buy out Willie's contract. You can bet your ass, I highly doubt they're going to be able to buy out 2 consecutive coaches. So you might as well just strap in. You know, we can complain about, if coming into year 2, if by the end of year 2 we're still looking as shitty as year 1, then, oh yeah, it's time to raise the red flags. This ain't the guy. But at the same time, he ain't going nowhere just because of money. They're not buying out 2 consecutive coaches. It's just simply not happening. So people can get on Twitter and tweet their feelings, but Norvell's not going anywhere. Just strap in. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he turns it around, but it's going to take, maybe by year 3, we'll be competent. And by competent, I mean no ridiculous blowouts, unless maybe to a Clemson. And maybe you're winning 8 games. And then by year 4, maybe you're like, all right, now the recruiting's finally turning around. We're in the top 10 now. Like, it's going to be a slow, right? Like, Mullen walked in at Florida and was able to turn around like that. He inherited a little bit different situation than what Willie inherited. And you really have to dig deep to see that, because people just want to arbitrarily look at the class rankings compared to Florida and Florida State and what Willie walked into, what Mullen walked into. But if you actually see what happened to those classes, like from the day each of those 2 people stepped in, if you actually analyze and evaluate what the fuck went down, Mullen had a better situation. Not an incredible situation, but a better one. And then he is a good coach, so he turned them around like that. But unfortunately, as we've seen a lot of these programs, quick turnarounds aren't the rule. Like, by and large, they seem to be the anomaly. You know, like, it takes a couple of years. I mean, how long has Tennessee been trying to turn it around? Texas got rid of Mac Brown, 2009, 10? It's been 10 years. They thought Tom Herman was the next coming. Tom Herman's improved from Charlie Strong, but Texas still ain't winning shit. Yeah, we're stuck with Norvell. Like, you got to strap in. There is no reason to. You can criticize Norvell, like he's not beyond reproach, but to get mad, and it's a waste of time. And before Willie got fired, I made a few videos. I think after the Wake Forest game, said I was done with him. But at that point, I didn't know he was going to get fired, and so I was just going to pretty much just wait to see how the Willie era played out, because I didn't think it was possible they'd scrounge up that much cash. And then when they did, I was like, all right, well, here we go. But again, the admin hopefully gets cleaned up. I mean, there's been some changes to the booster structure, and some better people theoretically are in place. So maybe going forward, we'll be more organized in that regard. But again, if you're not that I don't think Norvell can turn around, maybe he will, but to be redundant, if you're going to fire a guy after 21 games, you better know damn sure you're going to get your first or even second option. They didn't get that. They didn't do that. They got their third or fourth option as coach. Yeah, Tennessee's been – and Tennessee hasn't won a title – well, they beat us 22 years. 22 years. Notre Dame hasn't won a title in 32 years. Like, it could be worse, but again, that doesn't make me feel better right now. I hope they do. As much as I don't think college football should be played during a pandemic, it doesn't mean I'm not going to watch. So if they do wind up playing a couple more games, I'm going to watch. I hope they do at least pick up one more W, something. Give these kids something to go out on a high note. You know, if they accept a bowl invitation because there's no win requirement this year, you know, watch that because they need all the practice and development they can get. So, but anyways, we're running on 50 minutes here. I appreciate you guys chiming in. But before I go, do you guys have any more comments or questions? Anything? I'd be glad to bullshit about it. Right. We got a no-star commit. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, I get recruiting's going to suffer for a second, but I'm not delusional like Mike. You can clean house and you can get these hungry guys, right? But you can do that and maybe get the floor up to 8 wins, but you're going to get your fucking head beat in by Florida and Clemson and teams like that. So you can only do that for so long. Like, you need to get the wins quickly. Like, if we're not winning at least like 8 games by year 3, showing some kind of upward trajectory, Norvell will finish his contract and then he'll be gone. You can only raise the floor with these, hungry guys for so long, but you need to start winning, and then so you can start getting the upper echelon recruits. That's what it is. I appreciate that, Brian. Maybe I'll do more of these. We'll see how much more of a season we got left, but if no one has any more questions or comments, then I'll go ahead and sign off. And thank you guys. I know this was impromptu. Maybe I'll do one next Monday. I'm sure something between now and then will happen. Well, except for a game, but who knows? Who knows who else will decommit or opt out, or who knows? But thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. But I'll holler at you guys later. You guys have a good one. And thanks for hopping on. Bye.